Hi everyone, welcome to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for joining us for the 4 o'clock news show here. We've got a newsmaker here in studio, Bob DeRobbio. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure meeting you again.
Providence mayoral candidate, we had him here when he was kicking off his campaign, is coming out swinging today. There was the recent report by WPRI 12. Mayor Jorge Elorza has been on 59 trips since being in office. And Bob, you had some things to say about this.
My comments are, the Providence needs a full-time mayor, someone who is, we can count on to be in City Hall 100% of the time. The report by WPRI was, I believe, just so interesting to see the amount of time that the mayor had been away from City Hall on trips either within the country or even abroad, bringing question mark into Providence, Rhode Island.
Well, that was sort of your follow-up when we talked, Bob, what was your assessment of the mayor's rationale for all of this travel?
Well, I thought that some of the rationale was positive with going to the mayor's conferences and no one can blame him for his position with the Conference of Mayors and being a part of that whole conversation. But to visit cities and countries to get ideas of what to bring back to Providence is really difficult to swallow. It's just not something that we should be doing on the taxpayers' money from the city of Providence.
So what would be your approach as in the office as mayor looking at travel? Because as you mentioned, there are some benefits selling Providence. I know the mayor was in New York City talking about some tourism opportunities. How would you balance the need to promote Providence with the need to stay in Providence?
Well, my approach would be a certain degree of transparency on what's being done. I think for the story to come out, it sounds like something was trying to be hidden away from the taxpayers in Providence. If you come out with an idea and say, this is the purpose of a visit, this is what the desired outcomes are, this is what I hope to plan for the future for the city, I don't think anyone would doubt that. But to come back and say, well, I looked at a place to bring jobs. Where are the jobs? I looked at a place to bring events to the city. Well, a report from this week said that the Dunkin' Donuts Center has nothing scheduled for this summer. So what's coming back to the city aside from the PVD Fest that's going to be happening the beginning of June? It certainly leads one to believe that these were pleasure excursions as opposed to business excursions to bring something back to the residents in the city of Providence.
Do you think perhaps would there be a need for transparency? If you were in office, would you release your schedule? Let folks in Providence knowing that you'd be going on trips places as well.
I think releasing a schedule is number one, top of the list. You have to do that. Why hide why you're going away? It's foolishness.
So you bring up a point that GoLocal had done a story this week regarding the number of events at the Dunkin' Donuts Center this summer. It looks to be 5 at this juncture. Compared, we know TD Bank in Boston has a lot, as do the casinos. Would this be something you'd want to work with the Dunkin' Donuts Center and saying, how can we get more attractions here to Providence?
Definitely working with the center, also trying to work in conjunction with PPAC and working in conjunction with the casinos to see if there are certain shows that can be presented in Providence with some of the crowd coming from the casinos, or working in conjunction, I said, with PPAC in a larger venue in the Dunkin' Donuts Center. There's so much that has to be done in Providence to make it the shining star for Rhode Island. When people talk about Rhode Island, they want to talk about the capital city, Providence. Where do we go? What do we do? What are the activities that are there? You want that to happen. You want that. As a governor, I know I would want that to look and say, here's my city, here's my capital city, Providence, having all of these events. Please come and visit us. Instead, we have something that's dark for all of the summer.
So looking at the Dunkin' Donuts Center, looking ahead, and when we had you in here last, you had just kicked off the campaign. It was literally the day that you'd made your announcement. You've been on the campaign trail, Bob. What are you hearing from folks in Providence?
There are so many comments from people writing in saying, we want to help, we want to make this a viable campaign. We know what you're up against, going against an incumbent mayor, and we want to make sure that your campaign is successful. Here are the problems from my particular ward. Here are the problems that I've been complaining about for the past 4 years, that nothing has been done about, will you listen to us? Can you do something for us? And, naturally, I'm on the listening mode and saying, if it can be done, certainly that will be, top of my agenda when elected.
And let's talk a little bit. There is a proposal at the Assembly for the potential for the sale of Providence water. Hasn't moved up there yet, but folks have been talking about this for years. What, in your estimation, is the best plan for Providence as it pertains to that asset?
I don't think that the citizens of Providence want to get rid of an asset. I think once you get rid of that asset, you have nothing more to give. We've given away streetlights. We've given away, parking patrols. We've given away even some of the parking meters to private concerns. Providence is not a city that's up for grabs to the highest bidder. Providence is a city that we have to have some control over, some pride in, and let's put some of our people to work doing those same jobs rather than farming them out to other private corporations. I would be opposed to the sale of the water, number one. Number two, I don't believe it can happen because that water belongs to everyone that has been paying for it within the city. And if anything, the sale of that should be divided amongst all the citizens in Providence.
It would, in your estimation, the sale just be, again, that one-time, one-off fill to perhaps address the pension obligation, but does not the pension obligation need to be addressed systemically as opposed to getting a big one-time lump sum?
I totally agree with you. The putting in of 300 million or 400 million or whatever that figure is going to be, which now is between 300 and 700 million, which is a wide gap, it's an immediate infusion of cash, but it's certainly not a long-range solution to the pension issue. We have to come up with proposals that are long-range solutions to it. That's looking at contracts. That's looking at some concessions, if they're possible, from the unions, and looking at ways to fuel this dollar amount that needs to be put aside every year.
We did just have in the studio Paul Dowdy with the Providence Firefighters Union pointing out that some council members had sat down with some staffers to look at the issue, and he was a little perturbed that labor was not at the table.
And labor was not at the table, correct. It was a meeting that hashed around some of the same old ideas and came up with some of the same solutions that perhaps Mayor Tavares had given many, many years ago for the city of Providence.
But again, that's going to be one of the big issues facing the city here as well. So you've talked with us that you're on the listening tour. You've heard from folks. Did you hear from folks on this travel issue?
On the travel issue? Oh, definitely. Definitely. Even if you look at Facebook, which is one medium of campaigning, you hear people agreeing with every comment on there about where did they go. Or perhaps the mayor was looking at some ideas for sanctuary city type issues, or visiting those cities, or there were even comments about, well, when you travel across Rhode Island, you only have to go 40 miles and you're out of state, so any type of small travel would put you out of state. To me, that's not the purpose of my criticism. My criticism is if there is transparency, if people know why you're going, if people know what you brought back, if people can see what you brought back and the value of it to the city, then I don't believe anyone is going to complain about it. But when you try and hide that, or say that I can work my office from the desk and from a telephone anywhere, there's a concern.
Would you, as you said, you want to be transparent. I mean, it's hard to say here. I mean, would you just really take a hard look at specific trips out and really weigh what's needed and what's not?
I believe that the mayor should be, and I would do this myself, when you do a daily log of what your activities are, that there aren't no redactions when anyone asks for that log. People want to know where you are, who you talk to, where you did your fundraising from, what dinner engagements you have. They're going to see you at these places. So why let them wonder what's going on? Be upfront about it.
So let's talk about fundraising. How is the fundraising going? Are you what's on tap for plans?
There are a number of fundraisers planned within the next 30 to 50 days, yes, and hopefully we can have some more decisions as to who might be entering this primary race on the Democratic side. I know that there are people sitting on the sidelines saying that, well, if so-and-so doesn't get in, or if this doesn't happen, then you have our support.
We're at the 11th hour.
We're at the 11th hour, so, my comment is, you really have to get off the fence at some point.
You've made the decision. You tossed your hat in the ring. You are in the arena, as the quote goes, going to be having some fundraisers. I mean, do you have concerns? The mayor has a formidable war chest.
Yes, definitely with the amount of money that's been talked about, and I know the number of fundraisers that he has coming up, because some of the people that I talk to are also doing fundraisers, for him. I don't feel that this office has to go out to the highest bidder or to the person with the most amount of money. To me, it's the person that's going to listen to the community, that's going to value their concerns, that's going to get back to the community with answers, and hopefully get back to the community with visible solutions to their problems. That, to me, is the important part, not raising $500,000.
Talking about solutions, talking about travel, talking about water supply. I'm glad we had you here in studio. Anything else you want to share with viewers until we have you in next?
I could do fundraising by putting in a parking meter someplace.
Bob DeRobbio, a fundraising parking meter. It could be like carrying the pig around. This could be your calling card for the campaign.
Right.
But wanted folks to know, again, the release went out today, just looking at that amount of travel. And Bob, wanting to know, again, the specifics and the return on investment. I appreciate you taking the time to come in here to studio. I'm sure we'll have you in here soon.
Thank you very much.
Bob DeRobbio, thanks so much.
Pleasure.
We'll let you go around the corner.
Right.
Bob DeRobbio, candidate for Providence mayor, announced today that he was looking at that schedule for Providence Mayor Jorge Elorza being out 59 times since being in office, raising some questions. Glad we had him here for a conversation at the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. Thanks for tuning in. 3 o'clock was The Taste with Rick Simone. It was all things pizza. He had Federal Hill Pizza on. He also had Figadini's. He had, let's see, as well, a couple others in there too that you make sure you want to check out. We also had Rudy Cheeks in here playing some harmonica. Bruce McRae, appreciate your taking the time to come here into the Alex and Ani Lounge. We'll have more live music for you, coverage from the State House, and more lifestyle from here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center later in the week. I'm GoLocal News.